Okay, well then we'll get into the gospel. Luke 16, 19 through 31. Stacy.
There's some words in here I'm going to get stuck on, but we'll try. How's that?
That's fine.
Okay. Jesus said to the Pharisees, there was a rich man who dressed in purple garments and fine linen, and dined sumptuously each day. And lying at his door was a poor man named Lazarus, covered with sores, who would gladly have eaten his fill of the scraps that fell from the rich man's table. Dogs even used to come and lick his sores. When the poor man died, he was carried away by angels to the bosom of Abraham. The rich man also died and was buried, and from the nether world where he was in torment, he raised his eyes and saw Abraham far off and Lazarus at his side. And he cried out, Father Abraham, have pity on me. Send Lazarus to dip the tip of his fingers in water and cool my tongue, for I am suffering torment in these flames. Abraham replied, My child, remember that you received what was good during your lifetime, while Lazarus likewise received what was bad. And now he is comforted here, whereas you are tormented. Moreover, between us and you a great
Chasm
is established, to prevent anyone from crossing who might wish to go from our side to yours, or from your side to ours. He said, Then I beg you, Father, send him to my father's house, for I have 5 brothers, so that he may warn them, lest they too come out to this place of torment. But Abraham replied, They have Moses and the prophets. Let them listen to them. He said, Oh no, Father Abraham, but if someone from the dead goes to them, they will repent. Then Abraham said, If they will not listen to Moses and the prophets, neither will they be persuaded if someone should rise from the dead. The gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ. So the first thing you'll notice that the rich man, he doesn't have a name here, does he? No. He's just the rich man. He dressed in purple garments, and now purple, when we were going through it, is they would be taken from a particular sea fish. I don't know, it was like and it was very, very expensive linen. I mean, just the highest grade and cost. And he dined sumptuously every day, which that's habitual self-indulgence. And lying at his door was a poor man named Lazarus, and he has a name, covered with sores. So maybe he was crippled and he couldn't move. I mean, sometimes nursing people would know that. I mean, if they don't move, they get sores. And he would have gladly eaten his fill of the scraps, right? The rich man was focused on his own needs and not the needs of others. It doesn't say that what he does, right? It doesn't say the rich man did anything evil. It's what he ought to have done. He ought to have been taking care of Lazarus, right? That was his neglect. He didn't take care of. He was worried about himself. It was love of self to contempt of God. He had someone right in front of him that he could have helped. I mean, almsgiving covers a multitude of sins. He could have helped this guy. The dogs treated him better. The dogs even used to come and lick his sores. So the dog actually treated him better than Lazarus did. So what does it profit a man to gain the whole world if he loses his eternal soul? If you think about that. When the poor man died, he was carried away by angels to the bosom of Abraham. So before Jesus came, they had the harrowing of hell, where he brought people from a place, Abraham's bosom, and they would be brought into heaven. Jesus preached the good news and brought them into heaven. The rich man also died and was buried, and he was chucked into hell, basically.
Was he?
Yeah.
Because at the end he's shown charity.
Well,
that's a confusing part of this, because
I know that's
set to evil, because he's asking for charity for his family.
But he said there's a great chasm.
There's a great chasm between purgatory and heaven.
Well, is he? So we'll look at that a little deeper when we get to the end.
And it said there that you can't cross.
You can cross, right? Because purgatory, they are crossing from one to the other.
Well, it said to stop them from crossing. It didn't say like stop God from taking them across.
So it says here that, so we'll get into that in a little bit. The rich man also died and was buried, where he was in torment. And he raised his eyes and saw Abraham far off and Lazarus at his side. And he cried out, Father Abraham, have pity on me. Send that stupid peasant Lazarus to give me some water, because I'm in torment. It's about me and my needs. I mean, that's what he's still asking for. He's not, I mean, that's, so they're really, for I am suffering torment in these flames.
And he had some sort of relationship with Lazarus because he knew his name.
Right,
So it wasn't
under
just
stable.
some,
Yeah, he probably knew his name. He was, who's that bum? Oh, it's Lazarus. Why is he stinking up my doorway?
That's probably why he didn't go to him. His sores and stinking.
It could be, right? I mean, but he had plenty. He could have sent a servant out to help Lazarus, clean him up. He could have cleaned him up. He could have gave him food. He could have done anything. My child, remember that you received what was good during your lifetime, while Lazarus received what was bad. But now he is comforted, whereas you are tormented. Moreover, between us and you, a great chasm is established to prevent anyone from crossing who might wish to go from our side to yours, or from your side to ours. And so he does go on to say about his brothers, right? He talks about his brothers. He said, Then I beg you, Father, send him to my father's house, for I have 5 brothers, so that he may warn them, lest they too come to this place of torment. Let them listen to them. He said, Oh no, Father Abraham, but if someone from they have Moses and the prophets, let them listen to them. So by listen, this means listen and obey. And his brothers, like him, didn't listen and obey. They weren't, he wasn't doing, because what did Moses and the prophets? He said, take care of the poor, take care of the widows, the orphans. I mean, that's, what is his calling? I mean, that's throughout the Old Testament too. And I mean, even in Amos, we just read that he should have been taking care of the poor instead of taking care of themselves. But I think this points out, this is kind of, there's also Jesus is pointing out, if they will not listen to Moses and the prophets, neither will they be persuaded if someone should rise from the dead. And so, I mean, that's Jesus who rose from the dead. He's pointing out here that even after I rise from the dead, there still will be people that won't listen to me. I have heard arguments that said this may be purgatory. That's that, but I mean, I'm not convinced by it myself. I mean, there's people who have, I mean, it's, most of the commentaries I've read have been that it's hell, and that,
I don't have a solid feeling like one way or another. It's just interesting. The way
yeah, it's interesting. I know, I thought that too. Yeah, but with purgatory, he is showing a charity, and where hell is primarily hate, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess it's not doctrine or whatever, but it's commonly understood that your will is set either good or evil after death, so.
Yeah, we choose to go, yeah, so that's the one point.
Yeah.
That's the one point, is once he dies, he's set where he's at, and that can't change. So he's set. I mean, when you're dead, you're either in heaven or hell, or you're in purgatory, which is going to be heaven. So you're either going to heaven or hell, right? And so this guy is obviously not in Abraham's bosom at that point, awaiting. So he's in a different place. And so when Jesus comes, he's going to the one place, and he's taking them to heaven, and he's in the torment and fires. And he had good things on earth, and he's not having good things. He's going to be in torment. And he chose it. And he's still treating Lazarus as a peasant. He's worried about his own. I'm tormenting. Look at Lazarus. It's all about me and what I want, me, myself, and I. But he does say that for his brothers.
Yeah, he does.
He does say that for his brothers. That's the one point where it's kind of brings an interesting point.
That's terrible.
but didn't the last time we go through this, I thought you were the one who taught this, that you were kind of responsible for your family, and if if his brothers didn't go to heaven, he would do a deeper.
There is a
place
deeper suffering because of the influences he had. And so absolutely there is levels of hell too, which that's another whole aspect of it that we looked at in the past, right? Because I'm responsible. So if what I say causes sin and you guys, to sin and I end up in hell, which hopefully, keep praying for me because I know that I'm trying to seeking heaven. But if what basically if something that happened, I'm responsible. And so he is also responsible. And if his punishment in hell may be that much more worse, I don't know. I don't know exactly how it works. I don't. But I did read that. One of the saints said that this charity was for his own selfish, he would be in less torment. That was one of the aspects that I read. I still think he's in hell, just because of the reasons I pointed out. But it's interesting that he does have this particular point. But this is a parable too. And so the parable too may be to point out too, the big point is that even if somebody is raised from the dead, they're still not going to listen to me when I'm raised from the dead. And also the point is they have Moses and the prophets. Now there are, like the Jews, they have Moses and the prophets, right? They better listen and obey to Moses and the prophets. They can make it to heaven by listening to Moses and the prophets. They're going to have Jesus to answer to. There's no man comes to the Father except Jesus Christ, right? But if they listen to Moses and the prophets, they're going to be, it's not my, it's God's way and his design of how to judge each person in particular, their particular judgment. But they have Moses and the prophets, just like the Islam, right? They are called, they have the Old Testament, right? They have that. They even have the Gospels. And so they're going to have to answer. They're going to have to answer, listen and obey to what they're reading. And so that's what's interesting about it, is that if you look at this, Jesus is making it clear they didn't listen to Moses and the prophets, and they're not going to listen to me even when I rise from the dead. And we see that in our world today, right? We just see so many people turning away. But that's good you brought that up, because I like to hear it's not so clear, because typically you think that hell is a complete absence of all charity.
Well, yeah, and at the very least, it's a good primer on kind of the idea of purgatory. Is because the back to the prayer of David, neglect the things that he did imperfectly. It could, if he got to purgatory, his purgatory could be, shedding the imperfect charity of oh, I want my brothers to do well because it looks good on me, to oh, I want my brothers to get to heaven because I want what's best for them.
Right.
So I'm not saying it is purgatory. It probably is hell, but it's an interesting thought, and it is kind of an interesting thought about what actually is purgatory, and it is fixing up the areas where we're lacking.
Right. And that's why I mentioned with the daily neglects prayer what we ought to have done, because there are things that we ought to do that we're not doing. And I think that's important, because we all have excess. Ask yourself, how much are you giving to the poor? How much are you actually helping others? We can look at the other religions, but they're giving 10% for the most part. A lot of them do. They give 10%. And, tithing, are we giving, what are we giving? A couple bucks? Well, so, we should be careful who we're giving. It says hold your alms until it sweats in your hands. But we should be given to good charities also, and places that'll follow God's word and follow his will. And so that's important. But we should be giving. We should be helping. We should be doing spiritual and corporal works of mercy. We should be, what we've been given, we're stewards. All the stuff we have, everything, has been given to us by God. And we will have to account for all of it. All the things that we have, what did we do with what I gave you? And so I think that's important, because are we building up treasures in heaven or just treasures here on earth? And it's not wrong. It's not wrong. There's nothing in here that says it's wrong. Abraham was a super, super, super wealthy guy. He'd be a billionaire in today's terms. If you think about it, just the wealth that he had, or at least, very, very high multi-million. Same with King David, and when we look at some, and even Job was extremely wealthy, and so it's not the fact that they have wealth that's the problem, right? It's what he did with it. He only used it for his own selfish, desires. And that's why it's mentioned here, this, he dines sumptuously every day. It kind of shows this excess of just pleasure and wealth, and same kind of thought that we had in Amos in the very beginning, where that's all they were concerned about was eat, drinking, and be merry, for tomorrow you are dead. And really, if that's the focus that you have, and that's the focus of many people, that's kind of that's what materialism does. It's all about what we can accumulate and building up things, and you're actually creating an idol that's above God. And the things you have, I mean, you should be helping others. If we have the heart of Christ, we should help others. Go ahead, Kyle.
No, I'm trying to remember. Did the Pharisees believe in an afterlife? Because I know different sects of Judaism.
Yeah, the Sadducees didn't, and that's why they're sad, you see. And then the Pharisees did believe in, yep. So that's how I remember it. It's just Scott Hahn pun. But it's kind of a good way to remember it. And so the Pharisees did believe in the resurrection. That's why St. Paul would start an argument between the Sadducees and the Pharisees, because he knew they didn't believe in the resurrection, and yet the Pharisees did, and then he would get them pitted against each other, and he kind of would slip out a few times. And so Paul was smart. I mean, he was basically very, very.
I mean, I guess from the point of view of a Sadducee, why would you care?
Right, and
if this is all there is, then it makes perfect sense.
well, exactly. And why do you think we had so many people just slaughtered in the last century? I mean, why do you think? Well, the Jews have money and they have, let's get rid of them. I mean, if you don't have God and there is no right or wrong, then why worry about that? I mean, really, and that's the point. If somebody says they're atheist, a lot of times it may be, are you truly atheist? Because if you're truly atheist, you don't believe in what's right or wrong, I mean, and we all live that way, well, you're in my way, boom. Then why would it bother me? There is no right or wrong. You're in my way, you're an inconvenience to me. Get rid of them. I mean, so when you think of a society that works that way, you can see where there's some real problems. It's might makes right. It's whoever has the might is the one that's going to make the rules. And so we're not formed, our society's not formed in that manner. And so when people say they don't believe in God, they don't believe in right or wrong, it's really, they're not taking it to the logical conclusion of what they're doing. But people do that. I mean, why have kids? Because they're an inconvenience to me. So let's just abort them. I want the sex, but I don't want the responsibility. I mean, that's what they're saying. I mean, so this is the argument that they have. Why worry about kids? I'll just abort them. Why worry about, if it feels good, do it, right? That's hedonism. If you don't believe in God or punishment or moral, a moral God that believes in right and wrong, then if it feels good, do it. If you're only going to live for this world, then why not live as much as you want? And when it's inconvenient or you're starting to get sick, just blow yourself away. I mean, when you think about it, if you have no God and no moral structure, that makes logic. I mean, it kind of makes sense, doesn't it? I mean, if it's just for this world, why would you want to have suffering and pain or go through a cancer treatment? Just get rid of it. And so that's the problem we're having, is that there is this influx of this evil in our society where it's no longer believing what's right and wrong. And that's why I mentioned in the 1800s, every Christian denomination lived by the Ten Commandments and followed the Ten Commandments. All the way through. And so that's not so fashionable anymore now. It's he paid so I can play. I've heard that, and I'm just appalled by that kind of logic, where it's like, why do I have to worry about sin? Jesus, I did the sinner's prayer, and I can't lose my salvation. And so you can see the problem with that logic. If that's what your core belief is, then really, why not? I'm a Christian. I did the sinner's prayer. Party on. I can't lose my salvation, right? If that's a doctrine you believe in, I can't lose my salvation, then why wouldn't you just party and do whatever?
Keep reading. What's a sinner's prayer?
focus of this proverb is to show the hopelessness of hell. Because if he was in purgatory, he would have some hope of being relieved at some point in time.
He'd be able to pray for his brothers too at that point too, and they'd be effective prayer because he is righteous. So the people in purgatory can pray, and God will listen to the prayers, and so there is that aspect of it too. And so they're the church suffering, we're the church militant, and then there's the people in heaven that are the church triumphant. And so there is that aspect where we're praying for the people that are in purgatory, and they're praying for us also. And the people in heaven are praying for both, right? So,
Tom, what's a sinner's prayer?
so that's what Protestants will do, and it actually just started about in the 1900s. A lawyer in late 1800s, early 1900s, they started saying the sinner's prayers, which is if you confess Jesus is Lord with your mouth and believe in your heart that God raised Jesus from the dead, then you'll be saved, and you can't lose your salvation. And that's it. I mean, that's all you really need to do is make that confession of faith, which I don't see anything wrong with saying that prayer. I mean, because we are sinners and Jesus did, but that's not the end of it. That's the beginning. That's good. That's a very good beginning, but that's not the end. And I think that's the problem, is that if you, easy believism is what they call it, it's just like, that's not it. We can lose our salvation. We can choose not God. And that's the whole point, is we can say, no, I don't want to walk this walk anymore. I choose my sin over God. I choose these idols, which are basically sins that I've become a slave to over God. I choose sin over God. So we can say that, so we can lose. We can say, I choose this over God. And where will that put you? It'll put you in hell. And so as Catholics, that's what we believe. And so there's other people who also believe we don't have free will. So that doesn't make a lot of sense either. If you don't have free will, then one of them said you're basically riding a donkey to heaven or a donkey to hell. I mean, you're just... So there are people, there's faiths that are basically based on not believing in free will. And so you're predestined to heaven or you're predestined to hell. So there is a calling that God has for all of us, but we also have, we can accept it or reject it.
That's Hinduism.
What's that?
Hindus. Predestination.
Hindus, yeah. Yeah.
Can I
Sure.
revisit his motive for trying to help his brothers?
Yeah.
That he did it because he thought he would get better treatment? I don't think he knew anything. How would he know anything? It's like he's in shock of actually what happened to him, so how would he know he would get better treatment if he showed charity now? So maybe it really did come from his heart.
Right. So it says, I have 5 brothers so that he may warn them, lest they too come to this place of torment. So he's saying he doesn't want them to come to hell, right?
What is his motive? Because it's like you were saying it was...
Right. I did read that last time. There was some church fathers that said basically he had that motive. So we're responsible for other people. So our influence on other people helps people get to heaven or hell. I mean, we have responsibility for our actions. And if they end up in hell, because of what we do, it's kind of like in crime, if you're an accomplice to a crime, when there's a sin that takes place, you can look at every sin in that particular event, right? And there's a list of characters. You're the main character, but there's other characters that are involved, and so there is sin. So what I heard, and this isn't something that's set in stone, it's just people theorizing what could have been meant by this, but he has 5 brothers so that he may warn them, lest they too come to this place of torment. And so we don't even know exactly. I mean, Jesus is saying this is a parable, right? And he's showing that they had Moses and the prophets, right? And they could have listened to them. Right? I mean, that's the point. I mean, he could have, they have Moses and the prophets. He calls them, the other aspect too that we didn't even mention is that he calls him Father Abraham. So that means he's a Jew, right? He's circumcised. he's not a Gentile. He's calling him Father Abraham. So he's actually part of the Jewish community. They thought if you were circumcised, you were going to heaven. Some of them did. I mean, some of them said, well, we're circumcised. But Jesus is saying, no, you got to follow what Moses and the prophets also directed you. And the point here is that even if somebody was raised from the dead, they're still not going to listen to him. And so there's a bit of prophecy that's going on here when Jesus is giving this parable, that even when he raises, he's raised from the dead, people reject his message, right? Jesus rose from the dead, and people reject it every day, all over, all the time.
Would the rich man have known in life that he bore that responsibility, so that carries over into death, where he's like, hey, help them out?
Well, I mean, it's in the Old Testament. It's all the way through it. I mean, we do have what we do, we're responsible for.
That would have been his motive if he knew that.
Right.
Obviously, it doesn't sound
I
like.
mean, so they didn't have. I mean, if he was a Jew, and every good Jew knew that's the only book they had was the Old Testament.
His
If he
motive
was.
for himself or for his brothers?
Well,
If he knew what Tom's talking about, it would have been ultimately for himself.
it would have been ultimately for himself. I mean, he still hasn't, his attitude, toward Lazarus really hasn't changed, right? He's still treating him as, send that dumb peasant Lazarus because I'm in torment. I mean, he's saying, let him dip my, I'm in torment here, let him cool my mouth. Well, I mean, there's kind of the hypocrisy of that is he was in torment and sores laying at his, so really his idea and his position isn't changed. He's just, this Lazarus, he's still, why is he there and I'm not? I mean, he still has this fundamental,
Repented.
right.
They're told Lazarus, I'm sorry.
I don't really see a repentance, exactly. I don't see any type of repentance for what he did. It's all still about him. I'm in torment. Oh, poor me, I'm in torment. And send Lazarus, and basically to dip his fingers to help me out.
So he's still seeing Lazarus as someone lower than him.
Yep,
As,
as a servant or whatever, just this slave or servant or whatever he was. So, so there's a lot here, and this is kind of a good. I'm glad we're having this discussion because, basically he's focused. He's still focused on himself. I mean, there's really that aspect of it. It's all about him. It's all about him. He does have that concern that his 5 brothers may show up there. But ultimately, Abraham sets him straight. Let them listen to them. And so I think that's a big point here is that this obedience of faith. So we have to make that determination because this is, it's, as Catholics, we know this, right? It's very clear to us that there's an obedience of faith. You can't just say, I believe in God, right? But we have to obey what God said, what Jesus said. He said, why do you call me Lord, Lord, and not follow my commandments? That's what Jesus said. Don't call me Lord, Lord, and then not do what I say. I'm calling you to also obey. And actually as Jews, they all knew they were supposed to obey Moses's. He laid it all out, and the Torah is all there. I mean, everything's there. They're all to follow it. And he's, was he following it? No. He was worried about himself. He was worried about pleasures in this world he had and what he ought to have done. It doesn't say the other things he did either, how he accumulated this wealth. I mean, none of that's mentioned here. So we could only speculate. But it's not the fact that he has things either. It's the fact that what he did with what he had was for himself.